What have you, as a musician, been doing during this time to, say, keep your chops up or keep yourself occupied?
As a musician, um, I've sort of just been some mild practice here and there. Nothing uh, too heavily regimented. I just play kind of like I did when I was a kid, just when I feel like it. A lot of times in the mornings during coffee, I'll go, I have a kit. It's right there, kind of in the living room. Here, I'll
Okay.
turn it around and see. It's just right there.
Oh yeah, nice.
And I have another kit set up downstairs for recording and all that. But um, I've just, it's an interesting thing because with everything slowed down, all the kind of chaotic adult stuff that keeps your mind and your time occupied has gone to the wayside.
Hmm.
So when I practice, I'm actually more in that sort of child state. Whereas when a kid goes down to practice, or at least when I didn't have all this uh, sort of peripheral stuff going on. Life was simple, and there wasn't uh, all these pending needs and things piling up, kind of making my practice either limited or just too cerebral.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this time has been sort of a return to that, where when I practice, I just have nothing but time, and I'm not clogged down by all this adult stuff
Oh
to
wow.
have to do and think about. So it's actually very freeing. It's a lot like the kind of practice I did when I was younger.
Okay. So
You know,
it's kind of easier to be present and, all right,
Mhm.
I'm in the
And it's more
song kind of thing.
productive.
Hmm.
Even
Yeah.
the practice itself normally has is kind of weighed down by adult concepts like, oh, I gotta learn this thing in a certain amount of time, and then I get frustrated. Well, why am I not getting this? And oh, well, I need to go over here and make sure I'm working on my left foot and all that.
Yeah.
Right? You tend to cram all this, you know, peripheral garbage onto your workflow, or I do anyway. Uh, so because that's how we organize tasks as we get older, right?
Yeah.
we have to prioritize. We only have so much time, but certain things take longer than others, and how do you manage that? Blah blah blah. Well, it's just like all that kind of thinking is lifted for me, where I just sit down and I can work on something, and there's no time constraint. There's no other things running through my mind. It's just very
Hmm.
freeing. So there's that, and I've been doing some home recording too, as much as possible, and I know other people are doing that. Um,
You mean
and
like
that's pretty much it.
sessions for various other musicians where they ask you to do the tracks on their new song?
Yep, it's a little
Okay.
bit of that. And I wouldn't say the rolling in like crazy, but definitely some sporadic work, which is good. It gets me down there and tinkering with my studio, and that's come along great. That's one of my favorite things to do. Is just record from home. It's the best,
Yeah.
really the
I don't know.
best.
I find it interesting that you're more into things now that a lot of the clutter and time constraints have been lifted. If only because I've spoken to a number of musicians who talk about they have to have deadlines. Otherwise, it's without that sense of immediacy, they just find themselves kind of drifting off or not staying on the task at hand or um,
Hmm.
I don't know. They just need that kind of stick saying, all right, you have to get this done and it has to be put out by this particular time. But
Sure.
I find it interesting that for you it's like, no, you don't need those constraints. In fact, when you lift them, you even become, more productive in a way.
Well, I think it depends on how much you constrain yourself in your normal life. I think for me, I tend to over constrain.
Hmm.
Um, and that's why a lot of what I said before is really just personal, based on my experience. I tend to over constrain, I think.
Okay.
And so for me personally, the way it's been, and maybe the way I'm wired, I'm finding I'm always looking for that state of balance,
Hmm.
and flow, where
Yeah.
things feel natural and not homogenized, and so I'm finding a return to the other side of that, of the constrained kind of approach and deadline,
Hmm.
which I get that. I appreciate that. And then sort of this other side where there's no constraints and finding more of a flow. And I think anything you do with less tension is going to be more productive. And
Yeah.
so for me, too much constraint causes tension, and it can't flow. The
Which
creative process can't flow, because ultimately that's what I'm exploring ways to be just more creative, and
yeah,
whatever that entails,
which
you
is
know
interesting because it's I've heard many a drummer describe that's the ultimate goal when you're behind the kit and playing is there's the natural tendency to tighten up. All right, I want to hit harder, I want to play faster,
right.
and you tighten up, but that's the exact opposite of what you need to do. It's much better when you just relax and just flow
Yeah.
into it. And so, it's well, what
Yeah.
works for drumming sounds like it works for life as well in many respects.
It just depends on what you're striving for personally. If you're striving for more speed and more power, then if you pursue that path, you'll probably find it. um, that My buddy Kevin said to me once, I was having a dinner party and we were talking about practicing on a pad, and he's like, "Friend, you don't need any more chops." Because I was like, "Well, I got to work on my chops, man." He's
All
like,
right.
"You don't need any more chops," and we all had a laugh, and it's true. I mean, who actually thinks that? I mean, of course you want more, but what I generally strive for in my working career life is it isn't more power, because I've hit the apex with that. I don't
Yeah.
need more power. I don't need more speed. Um, what I need more is space, depth.
Hmm.
How wide can I make things
Hmm.
feel? Sometimes that turns into accuracy. How can I make my margin of error smaller when I'm playing? Make my consistency better.
Hmm.
So those are the kinds of the things I'm striving for, you know, on one front, and then the other front would be what we were talking about before, just creatively, melodically, ideas. What is it do I want to say if I were just alone on the instrument, you kind of
Yeah.
thing. Because I view it as two things. I'm an accompanist, and that's my job, and that's what
Yeah.
I do, and I love that. And then there's this personal other side that's just sees the drum set as its own instrument, and I just find it fascinating to be able to make it sing just by myself, because I don't know, I enjoy sitting down and behind a kit with no one else around, and if nothing else, just touching the drums, listening to them, being again in a flow.
Hmm.
Then someone, maybe nobody ever hears it. um
Yeah.
and I don't always set up my camera. A lot of really great stuff gets lost. um and that's okay. I'm not necessarily trying to show the world, at all times, like, oh, look what I can do, or look what I'm doing now, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so there's a very personal side of it that I practice for that isn't for other people
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
per se, you know.
Right.
Um, and that's just how it evolved for me, you know.
Yeah.
It's
No, I totally
yeah,
get that. I did an interview with Michael McDermott, who's Joan Jett's drummer, and he
yeah,
talked about
yeah. He's great.
there's stuff that he does, when he's just noodling at home, and exploring and
Yeah,
stuff like that, and he'll kind of say in the back of his mind like that was fun. He's like, but yeah, that would get me fired. No, that would get me
yeah.
fired, because it wouldn't work for the
No, of
song,
course,
but it's still a great intellectual fun exercise.
sure.
And
As
then
long as you
talking,
compartmentalize,
right,
you
right,
just know that, and then you're good. You know,
yeah,
know what you're gonna play professionally on your gig, and know what you're not. And you know, it's great if you're doing the kind of music where both things can happen, where and that's true on my gig. um, there's a lot of room for creativity, so there is crossover.
yeah.
um,
I mean,
I'm
speaking of
not
which,
just
because
a
I
total
was
robot.
going through some of your clips that you have posted,
Hmm.
and you had this this one you called a buffet of ballads that you posted in the summer of
Yeah,
last
yeah,
year,
yeah,
and just short clips, and stuff like that.
yeah.
But in the middle of the clip, and I think I assume it was shot by your drum tech, because as you're
Yeah,
playing
yeah,
the concert,
yep.
you're in the middle of She's Everything, and
Uh-huh.
it gets into this kind of instrumental expanse. And what I thought was
Yeah,
cool is you, with your right hand, you went on this little faster pattern with the ride cymbal.
right.
Um, and it was much faster than what you were playing on the rest of the kit, but it still fit the ballad. And I'm curious, and because I don't think that was on the original recording, how often do you go into experiments like that? And is it spontaneous? Is it planned?
It's it depends on the circumstance. So what'll happen is something will evolve in a live show, you know, because remember we play these songs over and over, and I might just be going one night and I'm in a creative place, and I'll be like, okay, whoa, that was cool, and then it will become the thing I do all the time,
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
so, and I'll allow that to happen. I don't fight that. It just becomes the new thing. And yeah, it deviates from the record. You know, Brad loves it when we're not like the record. He's
Hmm.
a he's a big, just like the minute we start rehearsing a song, it's we don't it's we know that it's not going to be like the record, and that's fine. I like that because it gives it room for it to be spontaneous, and it gives it that place to where we can have fun with it live. So we're not just miming every night.
Right.
You know, we all want to play and be spontaneous within the framework. So we don't want to make the song unrecognizable. You
Right.
know, so it's not that hard to balance that. And so sometimes things evolve out of one exploration that just seemed to work, and
Hmm.
then within that there's room just for nightly. There's really no limit. You find your space, you find your place where you can loosen up and deviate from the script, and you just take those opportunities if you feel like it. Some nights I don't feel like. Some nights I feel a little tired, or I'm not feeling so connected, and then I don't take as many of those opportunities. I just go right through it.
Hmm.
You know, it all depends how you feel. Other nights I'm like alert, I'm ready to have a good time, you know, and it's just flowing. So I kind of gauge, I pay a lot of attention to how I feel before I play. You know, I give a lot of weight to that.
Yeah.
Because you can't force yourself to be in a great place if you're in just a sort of average place.
Hmm.
And I try to honor that and not not fight it by telling myself I have to be awesome tonight. My energy has to be great. No, it doesn't, because I'm at a level to where I can play with a lower internal energy and you still wouldn't know. You wouldn't know that I wasn't mentally, I can pull it off and sort of fool you at the base level.
Yeah,
You know,
the timing is going to be good. The feel is going to be good.
yeah. There's a base level of excellence, I think, that I can always sort of count on, even if I'm not feeling great, that will get us through it. And then there's that extra, that heightened or elevated state, which I pay attention to. And it's weird. It doesn't. I don't know how it's like. I can have a great day, an awesome day, beautiful weather. Who knows? Food's perfect, plenty of sleep, and then sit down to play and just feel blah.
Hmm.
And I can't tell you why. So what I try to do again is just honor that and play. And then you never know. Sometimes in the middle of the show, because I'm not fighting it and telling myself I have to be awesome,
Mm-hmm.
well, then I drift into, maybe by the second half of the show, I'm feeling elevated.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so
Right.
I always pay attention to how I feel at the beginning and just play to that place.
Mm-hmm.
Um, But there's a couple things are always consistent. I'm always happy to be there. There's no bad shows. Like there just isn't bad anymore.
Yeah.
There just isn't. Like it's it's always at a base level of pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even on the worst night, it's pretty good. And because what makes a bad night? For me, a bad night isn't about whether we played perfectly. A bad night is like, how was the vibe?
Mm. Yeah.
Because we can be in a great mood. We can, as a band, and be like really kind of lighthearted and make mistakes and just laugh at them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because
Yeah.
so not nailing something perfectly doesn't make it a failure. What more or less makes it, I don't like to use failure because it's not, but what makes it less, more just, kind of ho hum would be just what was the vibe? Maybe the crowd was kind of just
Yeah.
flatlined, or maybe we were flatlined, or and even then, it's never bad.
Right. Right.
It's always There's always that element of gratitude, and if nothing else, if you're thankful to be there, it's going to be pretty good.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's kind of like one time I saw an interview with Jon Stewart when he was doing the Daily Show, and he was talking about,
Yeah,
they'd really gotten it into, a high level like you're talking about. And he said, yeah, I look at it
yeah.
like we're pizza. Even if it's not the best, on every night, it's still pizza.
Wait, didn't I
It's
give you that? Wait, didn't I give? That's my analogy. I swear.
I swore, no, I saw him do that. I mean, maybe he stole it
Is that
from
what he
you. I don't
said?
know. Yeah.
Did he say that?
Yes.
That's funny. I've been saying that since I was like, I don't know, mid-20s. That's unbelievable. I'm like, it's like pizza. It's like there's no, you know.
Yeah.
Well, if I don't know if you'll have to edit this or not, but I usually equate it to sex because it's like sex and pizza. It's like it may be bad, but you're always happy to have it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
so
Right.
it's that kind of thing. There's better, there's worse, but you're always glad that you're having it.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Right.
Even the worst sex still beats out the best accounting. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's right. That's right. There you go. All right. Hmm.
so, but it also makes me wonder because, this unique situation, because it would seem to me, I've never been in, but it seems that being in a band, especially a long running band, being a member of
Hmm.
this cohesive unit where there's a lot of unspoken communication that goes
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
is a very unique connection experience. And I'm wondering, with all this quarantining, do you
Mm.
still feel like you're part of a band, even though it's been, a few months? Do you feel the connection with those guys?
Oh yeah, because first of all, it's only been our last show. We were in Canada. Our last show was like March 2nd. So I mean, it hasn't been that long. We've gone longer.
Hmm.
It's just weird because this is the season we should be playing.
Yeah.
We should be ramping up literally right about now. Um, no, 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 it's not. That's one of the, it's sort of like, you ever have that friend from high school you were buddies with, or college,
Hmm.
and this was your plus one. This was your, you were inseparable kind of person. And, and then you grow up a little, maybe you move, you part ways, that you get married, you do that.
Yeah.
And maybe you don't talk as much, but when you do, you pick up right where you left off.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? I have friends like that. I've actually gotten in touch recently with some people like that I haven't talked to in years, but we were inseparable for a number of years. And it's just, hey, what's up? And you just fall right back into it. So no, there's no disconnect. We've been doing it too long.
Hmm.
We could take 10 years off. You know,
Yeah.
I fully believe, and just sort of, it's just
Jump.
locked in. It's like riding a bike,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah. No,
more in the, not technically, but what would we be technically disconnected? Like, would we be a little disjointed? Absolutely.
no.
Um, for the first, when we take like 2 months off for the winter and then we come back, those
Yeah.
first couple shows are like, weird. Again, we're still at a level to where our extreme discomfort allows us to play at a pretty high level, but we feel it. We all go, oh boy, because we're just trying to remember muscle memory and things and lyrics and right and all that other
Yeah.
stuff. So yeah, it 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 gets disjointed, like physically and technically, but not like in terms of our bond.
Hmm.
It's not, we know what we're trying to achieve through our hands. We
Yeah.
know what the vibe is supposed to be.
Right.
It's just getting this to line up with it.
Okay. No,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I find that cool. Just also as a music fan, and
Right.
it's that other thing to look forward to when all this Michigas is all over with is
Yeah.
when that comes back. Just because that's part of the thrill of the live show is seeing these people interact and make
Yeah.
music,
And actually
together.
play. Yeah, we don't like to be drones.
Yeah.
You know.
And then in terms of making music, like the song that's the hit right now that's out there a lot is "No I in Beer,"
Yeah,
and
that
I'm
just came out. Yeah.
right. But you guys recorded that before the
Yeah,
quarantine,
we
and I'm
did.
curious though, when you're given a piece like that, what are you given, in terms of structure, and then
Yeah.
how do you develop your part in a song like that?
It's there's a few different contexts. So it's not the same context for each song. For instance, some songs are more conceptually complete when they come to us, and some are
Mm.
less. So I'd say there's two contexts we vacillate between. The one is Brad will go, okay, I've got this idea. I know exactly how I want it to go. I pretty much know the form. The lyrics are there. I know what I want it to do. And he has a much more detailed view. So at that point, it's pretty easy. And he'll give me some verbal cues. He goes, here, I'm looking for this. Uh, and then the last thing he'll say is, well, go down and good luck. Go down to the drum room. Good luck. And from there, it's already pretty cohesive, and we're just trying to find the right final glue, and then the right take to, you know. Now the other context is it's loose. I've got some. I've got a verse and a chorus. I know we need a bridge. I don't really know dynamically how it's going to go, if it builds or if it just plows all the way through. We're not quite sure. Again, we'll figure it out down there. Good luck. It's enough of a concept. It's enough of a concept where we can really tweak it as we're in there. This was one of those songs, I think.
Mm.
It was as far as I remember, and man, I'm not kidding. It was like one take. We just plowed. You know, if you notice, the song just kind of it's the same kind of dynamic. It's almost like I'm almost programmed drums, but it's live.
Yeah, but I mean, there's
So,
still accents that you can hear in it. So it's not like it's just, you know, a
right.
2/4 beat kind of thing. There's more to it than that.
Well, that's just me syncopating. There's
Mm.
no like full band figures, you know, there's no like pushes or hits or things like that. There's a stop, there's a breakdown after the solo. But that's it. There's no like rhythmic figures. Anything you're hearing there is just me syncopating
Hmm.
from improvisation on the track, you know. Uh, and so that was one of those where it was. He definitely had the lyric, and he definitely knew what the song was about. We had a verse and a chorus, and I think we just kind of went down there and threw the mics on and just pretty much played it. It was
Wow.
a real easy. Yeah, there was nothing to it when we did it. It was just it played itself,
Wow.
you
See, I
know.
find that fascinating that the one of the songs that you are given the least amount of material to work with is one where you guys just hammer it out in one take. And
That's the
then
exception.
okay. And
It's
is it just kismet, or is it, does that speak to, again, you guys are this cohesive unit that have been together for years and
both.
years?
Absolutely, it's synergistic. It's both things. Yes, you know, I know. For instance, I mean, we all have a feel of how we want this to go. We know a lot of what not to do, so
Yeah.
that helps. You know, it doesn't always point us what to do, but definitely knowing what not to do um, helps a lot. And who knows? There may have been one or two cues when he was playing us the song down. It's possible. It's possible he said something like, you know, I feel this is a four on the floor, and even just that alone tells me a lot.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. There could have been a couple notes, but that's it. And it was. I know. I'm pretty sure it was one take, and maybe we did another one behind it just to have options.
Hmm.
We do that. It's not a goal to see how fast we can record. Like he owns his own studio, so we're not paying for time.
Yeah.
You
So you
know,
have
and so
the luxury of, you know, let's try this route, let's try that route.
absolutely. But sometimes you don't mess with it. You know, sometimes it was just, that's it. We got it. You
Hmm.
know, all right, do another one because maybe there's a better fill. You're right. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
but they don't
Okay.
all go like that. They don't all go like that. It just depends. Um, it just depends how cohesively uh, sort of visualized he has the song. Sometimes it's more visualized, sometimes it's less, and he's sort of looking for feedback. He can't know how the song goes until we actually play it. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? That kind of thing.
Right. It's like, well, I don't know what it should be, but I will know when I hear it.
Yeah, And so we work on it, and then other times it's just fully, no, I hear everything, you know.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so
And how
you never know
how
what
does he
you're gonna
usually
get.
communicate his drumming ideas to you?
That's evolved. The reason why I'm laughing so hard is because I'm busting balls, but you know, it's like speaking drums it's its own language, right? There's only a certain kind of language that drummers understand.
Right.
Um, Four on the floor, you know, uh, backbeat. Some people think a rim shot is what we think is a cross stick,
Okay.
side stick.
Yeah.
Play a rim
Yeah.
shot, so and so and then other countless other ways of describing. So we only understand it how we understand it, and then sometimes artists, and this is a very nuanced thing because I know he's hearing what he wants to hear, and it's good.
Yeah.
Whatever's in his mind works. But there have been times in the past I have not had this issue in a long time. I think we kind of finally figured out how to meet in the middle on our language.
Hmm.
But there was a time and just I'm sorry, I'm busting his balls, but it was almost like this isn't literal, but it would be something along the lines of I'm playing and he'll go, play orange. I'll be like, okay, what does that mean to you? Because I don't, orange. Is this orange? No, that's not orange. And then finally I'll be like, well, is this it? And he goes, yes. And I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, you hear that? That's cool. I don't know what you're talking about. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
props for having a great drum part in your mind. Like,
Right. Right.
so I respect that the conception is there, but the language barrier, and just I know lots of drummers that have this problem with their artists because they just, on one hand, they're artists, so they want to be able to, they want it now, and that's fine. I
Yeah.
love that. But at the same time, there isn't always that respect for the communication barrier, and drummers only sort of know what we know, uh, and so. But now, God, we haven't had like that kind of miscommunication in a long time. I think we finally got to the point where I was able to have the conversation, like just because in the past, I think he thought that I was protesting like the
Uh,
idea, like saying that I didn't like the idea, and it was like, no, listen, I want to play whatever you hear.
yeah.
You know what I mean? If you hear like me playing like with a pot in one hand and a pan in another, like I want to give you that.
Yeah.
So I never discriminate or judge what the idea is because let's try it, right? So I'm
Yeah.
very accommodating. Um, and then but it's just like, but when I go, hey, I don't quite know what you want here, can almost be turned around into like some kind of defiance, I think. And especially since the more excited I get, the louder my voice gets.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's almost like I'm yelling. I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm not. I'm excited and happy, but I also don't know what idea to play. And so
Yeah.
I'm trying to work on not raising my voice when I'm excited because I think it makes people think I'm agitated when I'm not. I'm like a kid.
Right.
I'm just happy.
But it's a funny thing because it's and I'm always fascinated because I hear so many different stories about how lead guys will communicate with their drummers. There's some that have a basic knowledge of drums and they'll sit down and play kind of a basic thing and then say, all right, I want you to build off of that. And they
Yeah,
can
yeah,
speak that way. There's the story of like John Lennon like played a recording for Ringo one time and said, this is what I want on the next single. And Ringo said, well, that's two drummers on there. And he's like, well, you'll work it out. Um,
right, right.
or there's people that kind of sing it. There was a producer on one of the later Rush albums that got the nickname of Booge because he would sing
Right.
drum parts that he heard, like digga digga digga, Booge, and so
Yeah,
that's the way that they communicate. And so there's all these different ways that people that
yeah,
don't sit behind the kit have to communicate to the person who does.
yeah. That's happened. That always works. Just go ahead and sing the rhythm.
Hmm.
There have been a few times of that where it's just like, whatever. I'm like, okay, that's easy.
Yeah.
You know, um, uh, but sometimes it's funny, man. We're all in that boat. It's just it's a language that is unique to us,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And
And
the
then
rest of the world doesn't know it. And sometimes there's growing pains there. It's like when you realize it's like, oh, I've only been communicating this way with other drummers, and now I have to work with other people who have legitimate ideas, but there's this communication gap. So it's like, that's that's a good topic,
hmm
of conversation for sure.
And then the other thing specific to your situation is the artist you back is really really known for his guitar work,
You know it.
and as a result, you have played behind a lot of guitar solos, uh,
Yep.
screaming fast stuff, ballads, and
It's great.
I'm curious, what is the key to supporting a guitar solo, to adding a little bit of color, a little bit of flavor, but not getting in the way, but not just being a metronome.
Depends on the guy you're with or girl. Um, Brad he likes interaction. Don't Obviously don't step on it.
Hmm.
Give it the space, but he wants to feel supported. So it's more just about energy. Match his energy. So if his energy is intense, well, be intense. Do whatever you have to do um, to match his energy. And
Hmm.
so that's the game. If he's playing like if you mentioned before, like She's Everything, he's playing more of these longer patterns and phrases, but with all of the tone and inflection, that you can muster. So I just try to play to that, and it builds. It's a thing. It's a section that builds, and I just listen for him to build it. I'm constantly listening, so that's part of the game too. You can't just turn your ears off and play a part, right? You
Hmm.
not with my band, the band I'm in.
Yeah.
That's not the game. You're listening, and so you just go where he goes and use your good judgment and don't play things that step. So there were a couple songs last, let's see, was it last tour? There were these sections. One was uh, I can't remember the songs, but it was a similar kind of thing where the outro was just huge
Hmm.
and it was Solo Land. And I was taking these liberties. I was doing some interesting. I think there might be a spot in that collection of clips you were talking about where I was taking some liberties and doing some a few like large displacements
Mm.
of time. So
Yeah.
sort of doing like a rhythmic kind of illusion for a second. Where's one? You know, basically tension and release is what I'm trying to do. Is just make some quick tension while he's up in the air, and then
Mm-hmm.
just release it. And I think I was to him, I because we're on these big stages and it's hard to hear. I think I was going out so much to where he lost a little of his. He was kind of like, I don't quite know where one is, or I'm not sure.
Ah.
So politely, he said, "Listen, I love what you're going for there. I get it, but because I can't hear, like if we were in a small club, right, that we're on the, we could do that, but I'm losing my rhythmic center." So I was
Mm-hmm.
like, absolutely, and I want that kind of feedback. I don't want to mess anybody up,
Yeah.
but nonetheless, it relates to your question because what was causing me to do that wasn't like my ego or this desire to flip things around. It was in that moment, it felt musically appropriate because I was following his energy. The
Mm-hmm.
the displacement of time created this chaos that he was in. It's chaos. It's like, oh, let's push this chaos forward and then slap it back home, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was inspired by his doing, and I just took it too far.
Yeah. But I think
So
it says something that, it wasn't an admonishment or anything, and
absolutely, no, no,
it was still like, hey, I really, love the fact that you were listening to what I was doing and you were in there with it.
yeah,
And that he gives you that room and appreciates that connection that you guys have in those moments.
absolutely. It's not a reprimand. Listen, you've got to be able to talk directly to people without their feelings being hurt.
Hmm.
And so I try to be that guy. Just tell me what you got to tell me. Trust me, my feelings aren't hurt. Oh, you can't hear yourself? I don't want you to have to tiptoe and around telling me something you need from me
Yeah.
because because I might feel scolded or something. That's not what I want.
Hmm.
Oh, you're losing your sense of one out there. Look, yeah, I get it. Let me dial it back a hair.
Hmm.
Easy. I don't want to. I don't want anybody to suffer at my, hands or whatever. I want feedback. I don't. It doesn't always have to be positive. You know,
Yeah.
totally okay.
It's all about making it better.
Yes,
Right.
yes,
Okay.
that's my investment. You know,
And then
absolutely.
to switch gears a little,
Hmm.
in January, we lost Neil Peart of Rush,
You,
and
yeah,
you had posted that he was hands down your number one influence. So,
yes.
first off, because I don't think people necessarily connect Rush with Brad Paisley, and musically speaking, I'm curious, how do
It's
you think his influence comes out in your work?
it's subtle. People they think influence means it's constantly running through your veins when you're playing. And obviously you have an interesting situation there because Neil Peart's drumming is very, very specific to Rush, right? And it's not specific to Brad Paisley.
Right.
So it you just can't the two things really don't mix. But that doesn't mean he's not one of my greatest influences. I and it does come out in my playing. So a lot of what it is would be the way some of the it's not so much like literal licks or runs, but the inflections. Like he would do these double stops on toms and things, and like flams basically, and
Hmm.
sort of. He was the only guy I've really ever listened to that would hit a tom tom, but also like a rim shot tom tom,
Hmm.
and so that the drum would almost choke,
Hmm.
and you would get like this kind of high end kind of timbali thing on a closed tom. People don't realize a lot. He made a lot of those crazy notes with that 12-inch tom by rim shotting it
Oh,
and
okay.
bending the pitch. It's like a guitar player when they bend their neck.
Yeah.
He kind of did that, leaned into that 12-inch tom a lot,
Hmm.
and to get that cracky, that I don't know, that beautiful bouquet of like high end rage, before going to the other end of the kit where the drums were smaller. But so I do that. So that got me into trouble in the first part of my recording career because the engineers couldn't figure out. They're like, "Hey, you're missing the toms. You're choking them." And it's like, and I was like, "No, I'm actually doing that on purpose."
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't sound good. We we need the tom, either angle the toms more towards you so you have no access to the rim, or don't do that. So it took me a while to sort of beat that out of my playing. That totally came from him. That
Hmm.
rim
Hmm.
shot on the high tom kind of thing. Um, and there are a few rhythmic ideas that I've borrowed, um, in some of the spaces where we're able to create it. They're just little patterns, little things. I can't really articulate what they are, but there are Peart-isms
Yeah.
that come out that are also appropriate for the music, that aren't crazy, but they're more like inflections or just a nod,
Yeah.
So that's how, but as far as being an influence, it's just it almost transcends whether it comes out in my drumming. It's just I'm such a fan
Hmm.
of whatever was going on there. I mean, I was raised on that, that was my childhood. Like when he died, it literally felt like a part of my childhood died.
Hmm.
And I'm sure a lot of people felt that way, but it's weird when you're a kid, you don't have the you don't have the vision to realize that you're not the only one being influenced at the time.
Hmm.
So he was my hero,
Right. Right.
right?
Yeah.
As a 10-year-old, I didn't think about other 10 or how influential he was in the world or other drummers or any of that shit. I was
Yeah.
like, he is my hero. I have this love affair. We are close.
Yeah.
He speaks to me with his drumming, and I hear it, and that's real.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
when he died, that part of me really hurt.
Hmm.
I cried, man. I mean, it was just that innocence of that, and just I can't I just and then I come to find out, obviously, as I become an adult, like, oh, I'm one of thousands and thousands and thousands of people that have the
Yeah.
same. It's like you're not so special, right?
Right.
Um,
Right.
but in that moment, when I found out he passed, it was special, and it was just, man, man, it's God,
Hmm.
yeah, I, I'm I lack the words sometimes.
Yeah.
Um,
Especially because they were always one of those bands that you always felt, all right, I didn't catch them on this tour, but there'll be another, and so I'll
right.
have another
Yeah.
chance.
Now you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I understand. Look, and he wasn't the two types of drummers. You either get it or you don't. right? You
Hmm.
know, and he wasn't everybody's cup of tea. I can't imagine that, but I understand it. You know,
Yeah.
uh, because I, as much as I love Neil Peart, I was really into Steve Gadd and Clyde Stubblefield and Joe Morello and right and
Yeah.
you know all these guys. And so uh, it doesn't just because Neil was sort of in my Mount Rushmore of drummers. It doesn't mean that I'm some like overly cerebral, technical, robotic drone when I'm
Yeah.
playing. And he wasn't that either, by the way. He was a very purposeful. There was a lot of heart and soul in his playing. Now, yes, he memorized his parts. That's what he did. He wasn't the world's greatest improviser, and you know, later on he sought to work on that, right? And so, but if you listen to those parts, there's like they're deeply expressive.
Yeah.
You know, they're so well thought out, and there's so much of that like controlled chaos and resolution and space and inflection, and it's just like he was his own symphony, right?
Yeah.
uh Within the symphony of Rush, right? So it's just like there's just multi layers of brilliance that just hit me when I listen to that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think even because even I've met non-drummers who can sing the fills of Tom Sawyer, and
Right,
and if it was just cerebral, I don't think they would do that. But
right.
at that point, it becomes like a vocal.
Tom Sawyer, that might have been his masterpiece, right? If you in some ways, that's not for me to really define, but it's speculative. Like
Yeah.
it's in terms of the impact, like the amount of people that got to that song and was just like, okay, mind blown,
Right.
you know. And it had radio success, right? And it
Yeah.
had it wasn't just this underground masterpiece. It was literally their biggest single.
Yeah.
Um, and so, you know, I'm still waiting to paint my masterpiece. We'll see. I don't know if I've hit it yet, right? Well,
I,
you know,
I mean, you've had some really intense stuff on those
yeah,
instrumentals that you guys do.
yeah, yeah, that's true. There's some stuff. But I'm also talking about painting too, literally painting. I don't know that I've
Yes.
painted my masterpiece yet. Yeah.
Mhm. Which,
Drumming, maybe. I don't know.
right.
If not, I better hurry up. I'm turning
Right.
50 soon.
Well, I mean, and that's another thing that I wanted to ask you about because you've been posting pictures of these paintings that you've been creating,
Hmm.
and there's so many conversations where I'll talk to a drummer and we'll use painting terms, you know, like talking about, someone adds like a few more rack toms, and it's like, well, I wanted a little bit more color to my palette, and that kind of thing.
That's
And
right.
so it comes up a lot. And so I'm curious, what's for you, what does painting and playing the drums have in common?
I think the thing I could answer that, maybe I'll get to that through this sidebar on that. The thing that got me into painting, or why I paint, is because it's not drumming related.
Hmm.
It's a way to become a beginner and learn something from ground up that 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 is a distraction from music, because I can't just be all music all the time.
Hmm.
I need I'm learning that I need other things, but I don't need to be sedentary. I need to be active and creatively inspired, and I've always wanted to play with paint. I just think that That's a wonderful, it's also food too. Cooking is, and painting and cooking are and drumming are all kind of neck and neck. So
Huh.
you paint with flavors, you paint with paint, you paint with rhythms.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say in that regard, it's similar because you're ultimately trying to create a finished work of art, right? That you're proud of, that moves you.
Yeah.
I have this flow chart. It's just funny.
A
It's a
flow
very
chart?
simple. It's a flow chart for painting. Yeah.
Huh.
Here, I'll show it to you.
Okay.
I'll show it to you. It says here. Wait. Sorry. Bear with me.
No problem.
I have to run to it, but you'll see. Okay. Can you see it?
Part of it. I've got the upper right quadrant.
Okay. How's
Okay.
that?
Yeah. Yeah. Now I
So,
can see.
painting. Does it move me? Yes. Keep it. No. It gets the hose. And it's very simple. It reminds me to check in with myself
Mm-hmm.
and ask, do I like this? Am I doing this for the right reasons? Is this and am I moved by it? And it just kind of keeps me from maybe getting too big of a head about it, or I also don't want to beat myself up about it either. So I just always ask myself after a painting, does this move me?
Hmm.
And there have been many that didn't, and literally I just hose them off
Okay.
right after, just done. And
Yeah.
I guess that's analogous to, I've recorded myself, drumming, and there have been many times where I've deleted those recordings, you know, um,
Yeah.
and
But it,
it's the same thing. Does it move me? Yes, cool, keep it. If not, it's done.
right.
Um,
But it,
and I feel
but
like that helps with the quality control. That's why I do that.
yeah. But I'm betting it's still, even those times where it doesn't move you, it's still a valuable experience to have gone through it.
Oh, no doubt. Absolutely. I learn what not to do.
Hmm.
That's right. That's how my brain thinks. It's always a learning. Just because I don't want to keep the painting doesn't mean the experience wasn't valuable. Absolutely. And same with drumming and everything else.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, because at the start you said one of the key edges this band has is you guys know what not to do.
yeah, pretty much. 99%
Right.
accuracy on that. Yeah. Yeah. There's always a margin of error.
Right. But no, I've never heard anyone express that at all. Is like, knowing what to do is just as valuable as knowing, all right, don't go into this territory or this doesn't work or. And
Well,
that
because
only
if you
comes
know where
through
not to
experience.
go, you at least have narrowed down your options of where to go.
Yeah.
If you don't consider where not to go, you have too many, maybe too many options of what a responsible choice is, you
Hmm.
know. Um, and responsible meaning what are the consequences of not choosing the right path? Do you get reprimanded? Do you lose your job? You know what I mean? What's at stake?
Yeah.
So it just depends on if nothing's at stake, then it doesn't matter what not to do. And
Okay.
that's what practice is for, right? That's why, if you think about it, that's at the heart of practice. Is nothing's at stake, so you can really find out what works. But then you have to be the ultimate judge.
Yeah.
Does it move you or doesn't it?
Hmm.
Do you put your seal of approval on this to put it out into the world?
Yeah.
We have to have some kind of opinion of what we do. right? We can't, you know, and it's got to be fair. You don't want to over criticize it, but you don't want to give it too much of a pass for being so awesome just because I did it.
Yeah.
You know, that's a fine line to manage, and so that's why I have that flow chart.
And to that end, do you always record yourself when you're practicing?
No, I should do more of that. I know that.
Just
Listen, yeah, it's the best thing. You should record yourself when you practice, when you can't. Not all the time, but like feedback is the best teacher, right?
yeah.
So it's a discipline. I don't do it enough because I just want to play. So I don't want to set up a mic, and then sometimes I can't bear to hear back, you know, what I did, like what, right? But
Yeah.
the truth is, if you want to improve, you got to put recording into your bag of tricks. You got to have feedback. I mean, you know.
Because it seems like if it's going to work in that same flow chart that you came up with for painting, that's
Yes,
the best way to do it. Because with the painting, all right, you're in it at the moment, but then you
I've
can step
recorded
back.
it.
Yeah, you've
Yeah,
recorded it. You can step back and take a look. Whereas when you're just playing and not recording, well, it might sound good in your
you know it.
head at the moment, but it's a hard way to look at it objectively if you're not recording, it would seem.
Yes, that's why you record, so you have something to look at,
Hmm.
or obviously listen to. But yeah, that's why you do it, and because the feedback is immediate, um, and so and luckily, I mean, I've recorded myself enough, and even just in the recording process, when you're in the studio and there's like an album at stake and your reputation's on the line, that's really when you need to be lit. When I first went in there, I was listening for everything because I knew I didn't have a lot of wiggle room. Like if I needed to catch up on something, I'm going to have to catch up on it very quickly, or that was going to be my last chance.
Hmm.
So my learning accelerated in those early years from just listening back to takes on the record. And even that's another thing, even on takes, I could hear a take where like, okay, you better fix that next take.
Hmm.
That whatever that shit you did was, don't ever do that again. You know what I mean? And just
Yeah.
you've got to think critically like that, you know, or I do, you know.
Yeah. And I get the feeling this is going on in your head. Like it may not be something that the producer is saying, oh, I didn't
No,
care for that, but maybe you're judging your own performance as they listen to the full
yes,
playback, and when they go for another take, you're like, all right, gonna move that one. Yeah.
yep, yep. And you know, so I've even done things like coughed when it came to that part, you know, knowing that I was going to fix it in another take. Just I didn't want it to hear. It would, you know, the timeline would go, and it would go
Yeah.
there, not,
All right.
and so that no one would hear it, 'cause, you know.
Right. There's no reason
Oh,
anyone has to know.
yeah,
I'm already down the road where that is
yeah.
repaired. So
I don't want them to worry.
yeah.
Uh, I mean, and that's that's been my life essentially. Yeah.